I was stuck in an endless maze of corn. No matter which way I turned, the rows stretched forever, repeating like the walls of some living labyrinth. Each stalk whispered when the wind passed through, their dried leaves scraping together like skeletal hands brushing against each other. I didn't even know which direction I came from anymore. Every turn looked the same, every breath felt heavier. I climbed down from the sign and just stood there for a second, trying to keep my mind from splintering apart. My thoughts ran wild. Should I have gone right? I should have never split up with her. Is Lena okay? What if she's calling for me right now and I just can't hear it? The moonlight hung cold and distant above me, offering no warmth and no direction. I felt hopeless. I dropped to the ground, back pressed up against the signpost. The dirt cut cold through my jeans. I pulled out my phone, praying for a signal I already knew wasn't there. The screen lit up, and for a moment, everything went still. My home screen. Me and Lena at the beach she begged me to take her to last summer. I remember that day like it was branded into me. She wanted to get a picture together, said it'd be cute. I tried to look distant in it, arms crossed, barely smiling, but looking at it now, I could see all over my face. I was happy, not because of the ocean or the sun or any of that. Because of her. Why couldn't I just show it? My chest tightened. I don't know if it was guilt or fear or both, but that's when I heard it again. The dragging. That same scraping sound cutting through the silence, slow and heavy, like wood and rusted metal clawing across the dirt. Only this time, there was something else. Something new. Whistling. A low, off-key tune drifting through the rows. The kind of song a person hums when they've done something 1,000 times before. It came from somewhere behind me, carried by the wind, bouncing between the corn until I couldn't tell how far away it was. I froze. Then, from down the row, behind the corner, a red flickering light. It grew brighter, flashing across the corn in pulses. With each flicker, I could see a shape at the end of the path. Tall, moving slowly, and the sound, that horrible dragging sound, matched its rhythm perfectly. Step, drag. Then it stopped. I swallowed hard and forced myself to my feet, my knees barely listening, trembling under the weight of every sound. The dragging was closer now, close enough that I could hear the crunch of the gravel under its boots. I didn't think, I just moved. I slipped off the path into a row of corn, ducking low until the dry leaves brushed the back of my neck. The stalks crackled softly as I pushed deeper in and finally dropped flat against the dirt, trying to make myself as small as possible. The air was cold and heavy, thick with the smell of soil and dead roots. Every breath sounded like thunder in my own ears. I pressed a hand over my mouth. The sound came closer. Step, drag, step, drag. It stopped, right where I'd been sitting. Through the narrow gaps between the stalks, I could see a faint red light bleeding into the row, flickering against the edges of the corn, making long, wrapped shadows dance across the ground. I couldn't see what was holding it, only the light and a silhouette. Tall, still, watching. The sound of my heartbeat filled my chest so loud I was sure it could hear me. I didn't move, not even blink. Then, from behind the wall of corn, the whistling started again. Slow, uneven, the same broken tune winding through the rows like a warning. The red glow shifted as the figure turned, the crunch of its boots moving away, deliberate and calm. It reached the corner, stopped for a second. Then the glow faded as it turned out of sight. I didn't move for a long time, not until the last trace of its eerie whistle disappeared into the maze. Only then did I let out a breath. I waited until I was sure it was gone. No more footsteps, no more whistling, just the faint rustle of the corn moving in the wind. I slowly pushed myself up, brushing the dirt from my hands. My legs still shook, the adrenaline not letting go. Every step felt too loud. I tried to move carefully, sliding between the stalks, my shoulders brushing their dry edges. The maze around me seemed to breathe, the rows shifting in the darkness, whispering secrets and voices I couldn't make out. I kept my phone screen dim, just enough to see where I was going. Every now and then I thought I'd heard something, a creak, a faint tap, or a crunch of footsteps that weren't mine. But when I stopped, it all went silent again. Minutes passed, maybe hours, I couldn't tell anymore. Then, up ahead, I saw it. A break in the corn, a faint open space where the moonlight looked brighter. My pulse kicked up. A clearing. I hesitated. Nothing good had come from chasing the unknown tonight, but I couldn't help it. I needed somewhere, anywhere that wasn't this maze. I ran. The stalks whipped up against my arms as I pushed through, and then, all at once, the ground opened up beneath my feet. I stumbled into an open square patch surrounded on all sides by towering walls of corn. And in the middle of it stood a farmhouse. It looked like something pulled straight out of a century-old photograph. 2 stories tall, the wood siding faded to gray, the roof slanted and patched in places where the shingles had given up long ago. The windows were dark, but one of the upper ones was cracked open, its curtain fluttering weakly in the wind. Next to it was a narrow dirt path leading to an old barn, the doors hanging slightly crooked, one swaying back and forth with a low groan. I started breathing heavy. It didn't make any sense. Who the hell would live out here, buried in the middle of a corn maze that shouldn't even exist? Maybe it was abandoned. Maybe it was shelter. Maybe Lena was inside. I wanted to call her name, to scream it just in case she could hear me, but I didn't. The thought of the whistling starting up again froze the sound in my throat. Instead, I stepped closer. Gravel cracked under my shoes as I approached the porch. The old boards creaked under my weight when I stepped on them. I knocked once. No answer. I waited. Knocked again. Still nothing. My hand shook as I reached for the door. It turned easily, too easily, and the door drifted open with a long, tired groan. Inside was a narrow hallway lined with peeling wallpaper and dusty picture frames. The air was stale but not foul, like the place had been sealed off from the world for decades. The floorboards complained softly under every step I took. To my right, a staircase climbed into total darkness. My chest tightened just looking at it. Then, I saw it. A faint red glow bleeding through the crack at the end of the hallway. My pulse pounded. I followed it, each step slower than the last. When I reached the doorway, I froze. It was a living room, and at the center, inside the fireplace, burned a fire that wasn't right. The flames weren't orange. They were red. A deep crimson that almost resembled blood licking up the inside of the chimney. The walls were covered in old framed photographs, black and white portraits of people. Only, every single face was blurred. Not scratched or smudged. Just gone, like something had erased them completely. Some looked like children, others adults, all posed stiffly in clothes from another time. But the one that pulled me in was the large frame hanging above the fireplace. 8 people standing in line from shortest to tallest, all of them blurred except for one at the end. An older woman in clothes of a housewife from long ago. A plain ankle-length dress with a modest collar, sleeveless, rolled to her elbows, and an apron tied neatly around her waist. Her hair was pinned back tightly. No smile, no warmth. Beside her stood a man, a farmer. He wore faded overalls over a collared shirt, one strap undone, a work belt slung low over his hips, and worn boots caked with what might have been mud or something darker. He was extremely tall, so tall that his head went out of frame, just gone, cut completely by the edge of the photograph. Just then I heard it. A soft creaking from upstairs. Not the kind that comes from an old house shifting in the wind. No, this was slow, deliberate. The sound of weight pressing carefully against the floorboards above me. one step at a time, like someone was trying not to be heard. I froze, my throat felt tight, my pulse crawling in my ears. Whoever, whatever was up there had been waiting. I backed away, slow and quiet, retracing my steps through the hallway until I reached the front door. My hand trembled as I touched the handle, but before I turned it, something caught my eye. A thin beam of red light flickered through the curtain beside me. I hesitated, then lifted the edge just enough to see, out there, where the clearing met the wall of corn, a faint crimson glow pulsed, the same light I'd seen before swaying side to side like it was being carried. Then, from the darkness, a shape stepped out. The shadow stretched long across the dirt. Tall and thin, moving slow, it dragged something in its hand. The light kept stuttering, cutting pieces of it away before I could see clearly. I felt my stomach drop. The curtain slipped from my fingers and fell back into place. The glow vanished behind it, but I could still feel it. The heavy awareness pressing against the house like it knew I was inside. I backed up, one step, two, then turned and moved as fast as I dared, keeping my footsteps light. My breathing hitched as I rounded the corner and found another door at the rear of the house. The handle was cold. I turned it slowly, and the hinges gave a quiet, tired whine as I stepped into the back porch. That's when I heard it. The front door creaked open. The sound rolled through the house like thunder in the walls. Long, dragging, unmistakable. I dropped low, heart hammering, and slipped to the right side of the porch, staying hidden behind the railing. From there, I saw it. A narrow dirt path stretching away through the grass, lit faintly by the moonlight. It led straight to the old barn. My choices were simple. Run back into the corn, lose myself again in that endless maze, or take my chances with whatever waited in the barn. I looked over my shoulder at the dark doorway behind me, the wood still groaning from the pressure of something inside. I didn't think twice, I ran. The path was uneven, every step kicking up small clouds of dust. The barn loomed larger with each stride, its doors hanging half open like a mouth frozen mid-breath. When I reached it, I slowed. My hands gripped the rough edge of the door. I pulled it just enough to slip through, letting it close behind me with a hollow thud. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Rot. Thick and wet, clinging to the air. The scent of flesh that had been left too long under the sun. I gagged and covered my mouth, fumbling for the light switch on the wall. My fingers brushed a chain instead. I gave it a sharp tug. A single bulb flickered the life above me, weak and trembling. The barn came into focus. Hay bales stacked high, rusted tools hanging from hooks, pitchforks, ropes, coil of wire, everything coated in a film of dust. And then my eyes found the far wall. Beneath a small window where the moonlight bled through, 7 figures stood in the dirt. Scarecrows, each one impaled on a wooden stake, lined up shoulder to shoulder, all facing the door I'd just come through. They all varied in shape and height, some tall and broad, others small and crooked. Their burlap faces sagged under the weight of time, straw spilling out from the ripped seams. The smell of rot clung to me like smoke. I kept staring at those scarecrows, every one of them facing the door, their shadows trembling in the flicker of the light. My heart wouldn't slow down. Then I heard it. The back door of the house opening. The hinges gave a drawn-out squeal that carried through the still night air and straight into the barn. My hand shot up and killed the lights. The ball blinked once. Then the barn fell into pure darkness. I pressed myself behind a loose plank of wood, praying the shadows would swallow me whole. Please don't let him have seen the light. Please don't let him have heard me. For a moment, it was quiet. Then came the sound. Not walking, not running, full-on sprinting. It came tearing through the open field, heavy, frantic, inhumanely fast. The thud shook the boards around me, closer and closer until it slammed to a stop just outside the barn door. Then, the whistling. That same broken, off-key tune, now right on the other side of the wood. The doors flew open with a crack that made every nerve in my body ignite. A beam of faint moonlight cut across the barn floor. Through the thin gaps in the plank, I saw it. First, the end of a pitchfork dragging against the dirt, leaving thin, wet streaks where it passed. Then the figure holding it stepped into view. Old overalls clung to a body too thin to be alive. The fabric torn, soaked in patches of old, dried blood, scattered here and there with hay. His arms were pale, stretched, bone-tight under skin that looked like wax paper. Every bone showed, every vein twitched. He moved like a puppet being pulled by strings. And then I saw his head. A burlap sack tied around the neck with a frayed rope. The fabric stained dark near the bottom. 2 uneven holes where the eyes should have been. And beneath them, a crooked painted-on smile. A straw hat tilted on the top of the sack like a crown for something that should have never worn one. He walked toward the line of scarecrows, the pitchfork gliding over the dirt behind him, whispering against the ground with a metallic scrape that made my stomach twist. He stopped in front of them, head tilted slightly to one side, and with a voice that didn't even sound like it belonged to a human being, low, rattling like something speaking through soil. "We will be complete soon." The words crawled through the air, soft but heavy enough to crush my chest. Then, footsteps, coming closer, slow this time, measured. I pressed back harder against the wood, trying to hold my breath. The boards around me creaked, betraying me with the smallest sound. Then, everything stopped. No footsteps, no wind, no sound at all. Just silence. And then, white-hot pain exploded through my chest. I gasped, looking down in shock as 4 sharp metal rods burst clean through me. The end shimmered in the faint moonlight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I could taste the blood, metallic, thick, pouring down my lips. My fingers clawed uselessly at the air as my world started to fade. I looked up, and the last thing I saw before everything went black was that crooked smile tilting toward me. I woke up feeling cold, stiff. The air burned when I tried to breathe. My vision was nothing but a blur of orange and black, faint light bleeding through the dark like dying embers. Was I alive? I tried to move, but my arms wouldn't listen, neither would my legs. Every muscle screamed, but nothing happened. Panic crawled up my throat until I realized I wasn't lying down. I was upright. My arms were stretched out wide, locked in place, wood pressuring against my back, rope bit into my wrists. I was nailed, crucified to a board, my body hanging in a T-shape. The pain in my chest throbbed where the metal had torn through me. My legs were numb, like they didn't even exist. Through 2 tiny pinholes, I saw a flicker of soft orange warm light. Voices, 15, maybe 20 people, all talking at once. Their words echoed through the corn, muffled by distance. Then I heard her.
"He went this way."
Lena. Her voice cut through everything. She was alive. She sounded out of breath, desperate.
We got into an argument, and he wanted to keep going, and I got frustrated. The path said take a right, so I did, but I abandoned my partner. What kind of teammate am I?
Her words cracked at the end. Someone else spoke. "Then go back to the entrance. We'll all split up and see if we can find him."
No, we are teammates. I am not abandoning him again. You go right, and I'll go left, and I'll see if I can find him.
I tried to scream, to call her name, anything, but nothing came out. I pulled against the ropes until my skin tore, but all I could manage was a faint creak of the board beneath me. I could hear her footsteps fading down the wrong path. I wanted to tell her I was sorry for everything, for not listening, for not smiling, for taking her for granted, for every stupid little thing that didn't matter until now. But it was too late, because now I couldn't move my mouth. And now, what was covering my face, a heavy sack with the light shining through the sack just enough. On the other side, I was able to make out a smile, forced, permanent. I couldn't feel the warmth of the fire anymore, just the cold. And now, all I could do